It's just talking points. It's looks like a list of tweets, not anything serious.
Obviously, it's an uphill climb, but this is the case we need to make. And if the legislature is not going to hear it, I think the voters will.
And welcome back to Square Off. Democratic Governor Katie Hobbs is already looking past the new legislative session that starts Monday to the battle for control of the legislature in November. Exhibit A, last week, you heard it, Republican House Speaker Ben Toma was a hard no on a new Hobbs plan to bring more transparency and accountability to the Empowerment Scholarship Account expansion. Hobbs' message, if lawmakers do nothing, voters could punish them for it. Look for Republicans to turn the tables on Hobbs in a similar fashion in this new session. State lawmakers return to work Monday against the backdrop of a November election that could flip control of the legislature, where Republicans have just a one-vote majority. That's just one of the storylines we're talking about today with the top Capitol reporter, Mary Jo Pitzl of the Arizona Republic. Welcome back to Square Off.
Thanks for having me, Brahm.
So at 2 p.m. on Monday, the governor will deliver her State of the State speech. Big deal, joint session.
Pomp and circumstance.
Pomp and circumstance. Friends, family are there. Does the State of the State even matter anymore?
Well, the Constitution does require that the governor annually report to the legislature, so there is that. But does it matter? Yeah, I mean, it gives the governor a platform to say, this is what I intend to get done. Frankly, it gives reporters like myself a checklist that we can use to go back and say, okay, well, how'd you do? You know, how did this fare? And it also gives us an early preview of how this might be received by lawmakers. If you remember last year, brand new governor had just been sworn in. She walks into the State House of Representatives to deliver her address, and several members stood up and turned their backs. Several walked out. And that won't be the only thing we'll be watching for on Monday, but certainly we'll be looking to see if there's going to be a repeat of that kind of behavior.
Oh, we'll definitely be watching for that, especially given that era of divided government, Democratic governor, Republican-controlled legislature. It seems tensions between them have only risen over the past 12 months.
Yes.
There's one lawsuit out there? Two, maybe?
There's a lawsuit over her cabinet appointees. There's the ongoing dispute over the Empowerment Scholarship Program, as you previewed there. And I think we'll be having some good fights over the budget. But so yes, it is. Divided government's been a real shocker frankly, for the legislature. They've been very used to Republican control for 14 years, and you bring in this Democratic governor, and it's been more.
It has been, and it looks like it's going to keep going down that path, especially on the Republican side. And on the governor's side,
yeah,
what was it, 143 vetoes?
143.
That's got it smart.
Yeah, that's a record. She's saying she hopes she doesn't have to, get to that level again this year. I mean, there are we'll see, but there are some lessons learned from, a first year working with Speaker Toma and President Warren Peterson. They found a way to work together. They did get a state budget out that had bipartisan support, not just from them, but, from their caucuses. Most of the bills she signed, were Republican pieces of legislation, which shows that it's not like everything's going to run into the veto stamp that gets up to her desk. But I think the dynamic this year will be that if you are a Republican and you want to make sure that your legislation passes, because it doesn't mean much if it doesn't get signed, then you're going to have to craft it in a way that will get Democratic support. And the hope is that there will be more bipartisan supported legislation making it up to the governor's desk.
So you really think that's a message that's been received by the Republican caucus?
I would say by members of the Republican.
You don't need the whole caucus, you just need a few.
Yeah, by members of the Republican caucus. Pretty certainly not the Freedom Caucus. I think we're already seeing that in some of the sunset hearings that they've held this week and last week, this week, on state agencies, which is, do we continue this agency and for how long? There's been a concerted effort to really narrow down the time frame that, for example, the Department of Child Safety would be allowed to continue.
Let's talk about the budget.
Yeah.
that looms over everything in the same way elections do. There is an estimated $800 million shortfall this year and next, and we'll get more information on that, I think, in the next few weeks. How will that affect what happens at the legislature this session?
Well, it will help to focus them on the budget. And there's just, if you don't have money, and in fact, if you've got to find ways to cut it, that really eliminates a lot of big grandiose plans. There's not going to be any money to finance it. And I suspect that there will be quite a divide on how to reach that 800+ million cut. You know, is it good? Republican lawmakers are talking about, well, we can roll back some of the programs that we approved when we spent the surplus. A lot of it road projects. They're saying, you know, if it doesn't have a contract, and you know, road projects take a while to happen anyway, so we could pull that back. But there's going to be an interest in pulling back on state agency funding as well. And Hobbs has made it clear that she will not tolerate cuts to education and to health care.
Right. All right. We're going to have to leave it there. When we